IGUE series. I'm very happy to present today Martina Ferraguti. She's a very excellent researcher that studied in Rome first, then she did her PhD in the biological station of Doñana in Seville. She stays in the University of Extremadura, then Marie Curie in the University of Amsterdam, and now she is come back with a Ramón y Cajal at the EBD, and she is a scientific titular today. So congratulations for that. And we are going to talk about her work along this year, about how urbanization can influence the transmission of different diseases, different emerging diseases like avian malaria, West Nile virus, or avian influenza. So Martina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will share the screen. Okay, can you see? Is everything working?
Yes, perfect.
Yes, everything's fine.
So, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to give this talk. And today we will talk about cities, vector, and reservoir. And in particular, we will focus on the role of birds and mosquitoes in the urban area. So, if you have to think about the most dangerous animal in the world, I'm sure that some of you are thinking about a shark, a lion, or a snake. The snake for sure are important because they are in the first place. But if you think about the first two, we have the humans in second place and the mosquitoes, with around 800,000 of deaths every year. And this is not because mosquitoes are killers by themselves, but because they are vectors of numerous pathogens that include bacteria, parasite, and also virus. And here you can see some example of them. And today we know in the world around more than 3,500 species. And they are transmitting a lot of diseases, such as the Zika, the dengue, the malaria, or the West Nile, that we will see a bit more deeply later during this talk. And this is something so important that since 2016, the United Nations has warned the human being about this global increase in epidemics. And in particular, the 75% of these infectious diseases were closely linked to the ecosystem health due to different zoonoses. A zoonosis is just a disease that is circulating in the wildlife, and sometimes we can have the spillover to the humans. And today, under this One Health umbrella, we know this concept that recognizes that the health of the human is connected to the health of the animal and the environment which we are sharing our life. Also, less than 1 decade ago, diseases such as the dengue, the Zika, or the chikungunya were considered in Europe as imported tropical diseases. But the situation is changing, and indeed, since 2018-2019, we have found the first autochthonous cases of dengue, for example, in Spain, in particular in Murcia and Catalonia, and these were related to people that have not traveled outside the country. So we started reading about this new literature about dengue transmission in our area with the locally acquired cases, and the scientific community starts thinking what has changed in our life, in our habitat, why we have now these diseases that before were so far away from us. And the situation changed because the vector is coming to our country. In this case, with the dengue, was the Aedes albopictus, the Asian tiger mosquito, that is the main vector, for example, of dengue. And in this nice work from Fernandez Martinez and collaborator, they have created this map where we can see in different colors of green the people infected by dengue in Spain, and you can see how the darker zone are near Madrid and Barcelona airport. And they overlap this map with the distribution of the vector, the Asian tiger mosquito, and you can see how the high risk zone of the dengue transmission is instead near the Barcelona area, because it's where we have more abundance of the Asian tiger mosquitoes. This is part of the global change that represent all this set of environmental changes that is caused by the human activity and that is affecting the health on a global scale. So it's a globalization. We have just seen an example of this. People are traveling more and more, and with people also the vectors are traveling and also the pathogens. But today we will focus on the urbanization, another important driver of this global change. And the urbanization has a great impact on the avian population and the mosquito community composition, especially if we think that we are now in 2026. So in 2015, that means less than 25 years, the 70% of the population will live in cities. So we can imagine how all the consequences that we can have on the animal communities. For testing the effect of urbanization, we have worked in the southwestern of Spain, in the three provinces of Huelva, Sevilla, and Cádiz, and we work in different kinds of environment, including natural, rural, and urban area. In each one of these localities, we collect the mosquitoes. We are working with this big number of female mosquitoes, because I wanted to remind you that only female are the Matophagous sex, the one that can bite ourselves. And we identify 13 different species belonging to 5 genera. We also capture the birds. We focus on the house sparrows because we need a species that were present in all the 3 kinds of environment in order to compare this scale of urbanization. We collect several types of morphological measures and also a blood sample to check for the infectious status of the birds. And in a first work by Jessica Jimenez Peñuela, we test this effect of urbanization on the avian community, and we relate it with the body mass of the birds, and we test statistically for the infectious status, the land use, or the urban variable. And in particular, we work with this urbanization index, that is a score through a PCR that allows us to check our sample locality and to measure the urbanization level of each area. And a first effect that we have found was this negative effect of urbanization on the avian community. That means that as this urbanization index increased, the body mass of the house sparrow were decreasing. So this was a first proof of concept that we can say of the effect of the cities, the negative effect on the health status of the birds. But we also work with the mosquito, with the vectors, and we saw how the cities also reduce the mosquito abundance and the species richness of the vector community. And in particular, we measure the total abundance of the mosquitoes, and also the richness means as the number of different species in each locality. And you can see here in different color, in the light blue, we have the urban environment. And you can see how the abundance and the richness were lower, statistically lower in this kind of habitat compared to the natural or the urban or the natural area. In a more visual way, because we always like the graphics, we can see how the total abundance of mosquitoes were reducing as the urban land increased. This was true for the total abundance, but I want also to check your attention on this species, the Culex perexivus, where also its abundance was negatively related to the urban land. The Culex perexivus, you can see here the different kind of habitat. You can see how the natural area where the habitat where we have more abundance of this species. And for those of you that doesn't know the Culex perexivus, its distribution is really limited to the Iberian Peninsula, and you can see how these species prefer to feed on birds, lives in rural area, and it's the key vector of the West Nile virus in the southwestern of Spain. This is the cycle of the West Nile virus. It's an arbovirus transmitted by an arthropod, the mosquito, in this case the Culex mosquito are the main vector, and the main reproductive cycle is doing between the mosquito and the birds, because the birds are the only amplifier host. But sometimes an infected mosquito can also bite on horses or on aeets and a human and can transmit this virus. So we can get infected by West Nile virus through the bite of mosquitoes. In our work, we saw how the 0.67% of the house sparrows were infected by the West Nile virus, and we tried to explain the relationship between the infection in birds and the vector community composition. So we investigate how a different composition can affect the transmission dynamics of this pathogen in the southern of Spain. And what we saw when we related the infection in the birds with the vector community, here you have all the variables that we test, such as the different kind of habitat, natural, rural, and urban, the richness of mosquito, or the abundance of the most common species we have in our area. And the only positive relationship we found was with the Culex perexigus. Again, in a more visual way, we found that the positive birds, the birds that were infected with this virus, were present in the area where the Culex perexigus abundance was higher. And this is a special situation we have in Andalusia, where the Figueroa lab is investigating how the transmission cycle of this virus is performing, and they describe how in the natural and rural area the transmission is driven by the Culex perexigus, where the birds are getting infected more and more, they are amplifying the virus, and then when another species, the Culex pipiens, that is a urban species, is biting on birds, get infected and can transmit the virus to the humans, the spillover. The Culex pipiens, it's a more urban species. It's is called the house common mosquitoes, the one that we have at our homes, that are in our bedroom, so that disturb us, and is a major vector of West Nile virus in Europe. If you see in the map, you can see the distribution of this species. It's a huge distribution all around Europe, and that we know that they prefer to live in urban areas. And also in our study, in our sample site, you can see how in the urban area we have all 0 point something, but the Culex pipiens was really high with 2.65 of abundance. So this is a really urban species, but it's not the only, because nowadays we have also the case of invasive species, especially the Aedes albopictus. This is a personal donation, we can say, when I live for doing my postdoc in Netherlands, as Jessica introduced me. There was no Asian tiger mosquito in Seville, where I live. And then I was back 2 years ago, and now we can find the Asian tiger mosquito all around Seville and in the village near around. So it's really spreading a lot and very quickly. And this invasive species is another driver, also part of the global change. And they are really highly adaptable to the urban environment, because these species are able to exploit all the natural changes in the ecosystem to expand and establish themselves successfully. Just to remind you, we have 4 invasive Aedes species in Europe. We have the Aedes albopictus, the Aedes aegypti, the Aedes japonicus, and the Aedes correcus. But for sure, if we have to choose one winner, we have the Asian tiger mosquito, because you can see in the distribution map all the area where this species it's established. And this is also considered nowadays as one of the 100 most dangerous invasive species in the world. And this work, you can see from Lee and the collaborator, how these species prefer to live in the urban environment that here are colored by the blue color. So we can see also in this GIF how the distribution of the species increasing all around Europe, and also more recently this is establishing the population always in the more northern latitudes, because for urbanization, for sure, for climate change, in general, for all these global changes that we humans are producing on the Earth. And as we saw at the beginning of this presentation with the dengue, when a new species, a new vector is introduced in one territory, we are creating this new epidemiological scenario, because this species can act in the local transmission of the introduced pathogens. This was the case of the dengue in Spain, but also in Italy, or also in France was the case of the dengue, chikungunya, and Zika virus cases that they have experienced after the introduction of this invasive species. So for this reason, we start to think about, okay, we know that cities, we have native and invasive species, and it's really important to assess the ecological and the management factor that most influence the distribution of the species, in particular mosquitoes in this case. And for that, we start working with different urban watering infrastructure, including, for example, the type of sewer, A sewer is just a urban infrastructure where we accumulate water. So it can be a fountain, a urban lake, a different kind of water infrastructure. We also check for the sewer depth, the size, or the presence or not of ornamental or naturalized fountains. And on the other side, we work with the management strategy in order to vector control these mosquitoes, including, for example, the larvicida treatment, that today they are based with the BTI, that is a bacteria that is able to block, we can say, the development of the mosquito larvae. We will also check for the presence of vegetation around all these kind of urban infrastructure or variables that are more related with the spatial, such as the neighborhood of the city, the district, the year, or the month. And for this work, we were collaborating with the Public Health Agency of Barcelona that gave me access to a big database with the 73 neighborhoods belonging to the 10 districts of Barcelona. And then we were working with more than 73,000 of data about sewers and a lot of records where they send the technician to the field, to the city, and they check for the presence or not of the mosquito larvae. This was a work that was covering 4 years, and we spent all the years from February to November. And then we will work with the, as I already said, with different types or kind of urban infrastructure where the water was accumulated. This can look like a simple things, but it's not, because mosquito need the waters. So many people just think about the adult of mosquito, but we sometimes forgot all the other part of the cycle. And the mosquito need the water for mating, for laying the eggs. And depends on the species. Some mosquito species can also lay around 200 of eggs for each female. So it's really a big amount of mosquitoes larvae. And that's why we have to control the water infrastructure. In this video, you will see now the eggs. From the eggs, now we have the larvae. Maybe not all of you can know the larvae, but are these kind of small animals. And from larvae, then we have the pupa, and from the pupa, we have the adults. Here you can see the cycle. So what we have just seen was from the atoll to put the eggs, from the eggs the larvae and the pupa. And when we are working with the vector control, we focus on this part of the larvae and pupa because it's easy and also environmental more friendly to act on this stage of the mosquito with this bacteria, the BTI treatment, because we know that it's safe for plants and also for animals where we are acting and we are doing this kind of control. In this picture, you can see different technicians from the Barcelona Public Health Agency, and they are really working the urban infrastructure, such as some fountains, some kind of sewer. And in our model, we make a statistical colonization and recolonization models of this infrastructure. Here also it's like a urban lake, we can say, of the city of Barcelona. This technician is spreading the BTI, that it's like a dust. Or also checking in each sewer with this kind of, you can see this white tick is called dipper, where we can take water and check if there are larvae in this kind of sewer. So our first result was about the temporal variation. We saw that, as we can also imagine, that the presence of the mosquito larvae in the sewer varied through the years, and in summer is when we have the peak of abundance. And we also checked for interannual differences. This was a different pattern. We can see the different years in each histogram, and look at the last year, the 2019, as it was negatively related with the mosquito occurrence. Why? When we started investigating why this pattern was happening, we realized that in this year, in the 2019, in the Barcelona city, we have had a lot of imported cases of dengue, Zika, and chikungunya. And for these reasons, the government increased all the vector control effort, including more and more BTI treatment in order to reduce the overall population of mosquito and to reduce these kind of imported cases or the spreading of the diseases. Also looking at the spatial variation, here you have the 10 districts of the Barcelona city, And you can see how, just in two cases, in the Horta Guinardo and the Saria San Gervasi, and I ask sorry if there are some Catalan in the public, because I don't know how to pronounce, but you can see how just these two neighborhoods were positively related with the occurrence of the mosquito. So again, when the scientists start thinking, okay, but why these two neighborhoods were different, we studied the urban infrastructure of the neighborhood, and we saw that they were more rich neighborhood with a lot of urban garden, fountains, or structure that were accumulative waters. So these water were really breeding more and more mosquitoes. And looking also at the kind of the sewer that were present in this neighborhood, we saw that there were a higher percentage of one kind of sewer. In this picture, in this different picture, you have the three kind of sewer we have more or less all in all cities of Europe. We have a siphonic sewer, that they are this kind of sewer that we can commonly find in the cities. Then we have the sandbox and the handless. And you can see how just the sandbox in the light blue, you can see the water is this kind of structure that is accumulating water. So if we have the water, we have mosquito, because mosquito are using for breeding. And indeed, our statistical model also show how these sandbox sewer were the only one that were positively related with the occurrence of mosquitoes. So what was nice after publishing this work, the city, the government, we can say, of Barcelona, start a urban renovation plan in order to transform and to reduce the number of sandbox sewer in the city as part of the climate plan, they say. That means a measure to adapt to the climate change, because we know that with the climate change, the temperature increasing. If temperature increasing, we also have more and more mosquito, because this insect is really related with the temperature for its breeding cycle. So this was an example of how the scientific community can also help the administration, the government, in order to improve the public health and also to reduce a problem that it's really common to the citizen, to the person. And finally, a test that we make with the larvicida treatment, we also show how the BTI it's effective in reducing the presence of the larvae in the sewer, and you can see how the sewer treatment was reducing the occurrence of the mosquitoes in the city in relation with when we don't use this kind of treatment, but there is a temporal variation, because the BTI it's a bacteria, as we saw before, but it's alive, so it just lasts like around 20-25 days. And then you can see here in the graph how its effect is losing effect, we can say. So after 22 days, approx, we have to treat again the same urban infrastructure. So we were talking with the technician from the city to say, okay, you can make the treatment, but after 2-3 weeks, you have to make another treatment. If not, you are losing the effect that you are producing. So in this case, our results support the role of the different infrastructure and also the management strategies that government are using on shaping the mosquito distribution. And also we have demonstrated how the accurate monitoring of the mosquitoes can really help to identify this factor, especially related to the urban infrastructure, that are affecting the breeding of the population of the vectors in this case. And also we give some ways to improve their control. So as conclusion, we saw during this talk how this urbanization has a major impact on the avian population, the mosquito community composition, and also how different composition mosquito vector population can affect the pathogen transmission dynamics, because we have to take in mind that not all the mosquito can spread all the pathogen. We have different factors that are related to the mosquito, such as the biology, the ecology of each species, that are really important and that we have to take into account when we are studying a specific pathogen or virus or parasites. And also we have demonstrated how the scientific knowledge that the scientists we are producing, we are working every day can provide practical solutions that can be a benefit for the citizen, and in particular in this case for a public health problem, such as can be the case of the West Nile virus transmission or other arbovirus transmissions. So I would like to give a big thank you to all my colleagues from the Donasta Biological Station, and also thank you to all of you for your attention, and thank you to the organizing committee of the IGUE that invited me to give today this talk about the city vector and the reservoir. And if you have any question, it will be a pleasure for me to stay here and reply you. Thank you.
Thank you, Martina, for this awesome talk and super clear and didactic. I learned a lot about all the research you are making. Maybe Jessica, you want to moderate the discussion?
Yeah, of course. Yes. So thank you, Martina, for your presentation. Very amazing, as always. So I really encourage people to ask her any question that you can have about the data she presented or the whatever aspect of mosquitoes, avian influenza, West Nile virus, whatever, if you have any question. If you are shy, you can also write the question in the chat if you don't want to appear in the meeting.
If there are no questions, I have one for now.
Okay.
Okay. So I don't know if you have tell it because well I have here. Well, maybe you I miss it, but some birds in some cities. I'm thinking on the cigüeñas, in the I don't know in English how to say it. Sorry.
Which one?
That they las cigüeñas.
Storks.
Storks. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
they are stopping to migrate in some areas, and they are staying in cities. And I don't know more examples, but I know there are more examples of more small birds. And how do you think this will affect this transmission effect? Because if they don't migrate, maybe they are not able to, or they don't infect in some endemic areas or some disease, and so this could potentially benefit to the less transmission in urban areas, along with the less number of mosquitoes as you saw. I don't know if this can be. I don't know if you have to think about it.
Yes. Okay, about storks, I'm not a specialist, but we have some work with the West Nile virus and other kind of Hirundinae, the family of the Hirundina, such as swallow, house martin. And what we saw, well, depends on the pathogen for sure, because if we, for example, we are working with the West Nile virus, as the name say, the West Nile virus, it's a virus that was described for the first time in Africa, in Uganda. And these species are passing part of their life in Africa and then comes here during summer for breeding. So, for example, in this work that was performed when I was in Extremadura, the University of Extremadura, such as Juan de la Cierva, we saw how the swallows was the species that have the higher prevalence of infection, for example, for West Nile virus. So it's true that the species that are migratory species, if they are coming from an area where this virus are originating, they can bring with them the virus, and they can bring it, for example, in Spain, where they are passing part of their life. And indeed, then the transmission from migratory species can also act with the native species, and we have a local infection. Indeed, we have also some juveniles of this species that were infected. So if the juvenile is infected, it's for sure a local transmission, because sometimes we can just check for antibodies and okay, we get infected birds, but maybe they are already get infected in the past. But if we found in the juveniles, for sure it's a case of local transmission. So in this case, with as you say, if the migratory species are changing their behavior, for sure will affect the pathogen transmission. And for sure, they are an important reservoir of different pathogens. So yeah, we have to take into account the biology, the ecology of each species in order to have a complete view of the transmission, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
So does anyone have any question for Martina? Luis Gonzalez says in the chat that the presentation was very nice and very illustrative. So Marion, if you want to ask.
Sorry, I was looking for the microphone. Yeah, thank you very much for this very nice presentation. It was very interesting. I was wondering, so you looked at West Nile virus. Did you look at other diseases? Did you look at the malaria, for instance? Because you said it's spread by this other mosquito, well, I don't remember now. Collects pipiens, right?
Pipiens, yeah.
That is quite abundant in urban environments. I was wondering if you maybe found a link between urbanization and avian malaria.
Yes, well, with the avian malaria, we have worked a lot, and yes, for sure, the Culis pipiens was one of the most infected species. We have about vectors. And we didn't check for urbanization, but we check for different kind of water resources. We have a work that was published on landscape ecology, and we check for relation between parasites in the mosquitoes and the water sources. And what we found was that the prevalence was like increasing far from different kind of water. So we didn't check for urbanization index. It's really curious. It's a good idea. We can check for them because we have already data. But we were more focused on landscape, use. So in this sense, I don't know. I can't answer you if there is a relation between urbanization and avian malaria parasites. But I mean, for sure, it's an important vector because in cities we have the Culis pipiens and the Culiseta longiarulata. That was another of the species that we have also included in the urban paper, the one that I show you the results. And it's also an important vector of these kind of parasites. So, and also we know that a lot of house sparrows were infected by avian malaria parasites, so in the cities. So the vector is the Culis pipiens almost for sure. So yeah, we can check with this kind of urbanization variable. It's a good idea. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone have another question, maybe? Or comment or suggestion? No?
Can I ask another?
So, as you prefer. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess it's not your expertise, but maybe there's, that someone is doing this, some similar as your line of research, but with ticks, with the parasites of the ticks. Do you know if someone is doing this in cities or something like this, or is a line of research you can develop or someone can develop the next year?
Okay. Well, I'm not working with ticks for now. I mean, I work with mosquito, with culicoides, with some leptoconops, not with ticks. But in our team at the Doña Biological Station, we have a postdoc, Sergio Magallanes, that is working on ticks, but it's working in natural environment, not in cities. So we have a lot of, peak of abundance for sure of ticks in Doñana. We are working a lot on the National Park. So we are more checking in that kind of environment in the cities. So it's a trick.
Yeah. I guess in those environments in the natural areas are the bigger abundance. But I guess the higher risk of infection for human maybe are the urban areas because people don't expect ticks to be in the urban areas. Maybe they are more relaxed and
Yeah, that was what I was thinking. In urban parks, you can may have some ticks, but it's not so. I mean, I never have experienced some ticks in urban environment. They are more related to livestock, so some kind of wildlife like rabbit or wild boar, but deers for sure. So for that, they are more typical from a natural or rural area, but in the urban, I never have experienced that. So, and I don't want to because I really don't like things.
Yeah, maybe we don't like them, but in the future, maybe it's something we need to
I
worry.
have to check. That's really true.
Mhm.
They are really important vectors. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, if everybody is fine and don't have any question, maybe we can just finish the presentation. But anyway, if you have any doubt or question regarding the work of Martina, for sure, contact her by email or Twitter or any other platform. I'm sure she will be happy to help. And now I'm going to share like a little bit of announcement if someone just don't know. So the next, I don't know if can you see? I don't know if you're.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so the next in a few days on Monday 23, we're having the first online meeting regarding the review that we want to do together. So we are going to talk during this meeting. We're going to talk about what's going to be based about the review and moreover also the special issue that we want to publish in the aeet journal called Ecosistemas. So you want to come and tell us if you want to participate or maybe you have an idea, you are very welcome to go to the meeting. You can find also the link, if I'm correct, in our different social media, and we also send already an email. You can check on your mailbox. Yeah, that's it. And if you want to know more about the process of the review that we are going to do together about the urban ecology in Spain and Portugal, you're very welcome to come with us. So
Only one
that's
small
it.
thing. So the
Yes.
links are not in the social media, but because
Okay.
we only shared it with the people who told us that they were interested
Sure.
in participate. Now we are more than 50 or 60 people that they want to join. So in case you are interested into knowing more or really want to contribute into this review, let us message or here in the chat some with your email, and we can send the invitation to you. So yeah.
Yes. So yeah, that's it. Thank you everyone for coming, and I hope Martina that you enjoy the time here in the IGUE.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
So see you in a few days, and see you in the next seminar also, the next month in April. So bye.